Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for joining the Latinas in Computing community. We'll have a mixed reality panel. First, we're gonna start to give you a little background of who we are. This is a community created for the mission to promote representation and success of Latinas in computer-related fields. Our main goal is to support our community and provide visibility to new opportunities. It started at Grace Hopper. As many of you know, this is a huge conference for women in computing, and year after year we have formed connections, and we have started multiple things, so we would like you to join us. Next, we have the co-chairs. So all of us are here. First, we have Alegria Vaquero, from a senior software engineer at ZocDoc. Luza Jaramillo, a senior program manager at Electronic Arts. We also have myself, Melidangela Gutierrez, a cybersecurity consultant at Accenture. We want to start with a question. We want you to type in our chat if you have heard of mixed reality or the metaverse before this call. So we have Danielle, yes, Mirkeya, yes. We have also Alegria, Priscilla Jimenez, Isa Fernandez. Thank you, Isa. We hopefully will respond more of your questions. Sarah Chambers, yes, and Diana Morantes, thank you for joining us today. Yes. And Luza is mentioning Latinity, Virtual Reality 2020. Hopefully some of you attended that event, which was created with Rec Room. We have a representative from them today. Basically, some of us have responded where we have heard of mixed reality and the metaverse, but we would like to hear more from you in the chat. So Sarah, where have you heard of mixed reality or the metaverse? Was it through an Oculus, or was it in a specific conference like Luza mentioned? Anyone?
I think we're small enough that folks could unmute if they wanted to share, maybe not to.
Sure.
I get ads, don't you? Like ads to buy property on the metaverse.
Yes.
That's where I first heard.
That's new to me. I'm learning something new.
I do not know what algorithm recommended them to me, but it's bad because like I didn't have my first job before I got those recommendations, but I did.
Okay, that's awesome. Through school. And then Facebook. We have also the Latinity. So thank you so much for all your answers. We're gonna start today. Our panelists, we have our great panelists that are experts on this field. I'm going to be your moderator. First, we have Pico Rodriguez, founder and CEO of Bira Inc. Then we have Denise Mendez, a principal software engineer from Microsoft Mixed Reality, and Rosa Enciso, software engineer from Rec Room. I would like to invite them to introduce themselves and to explain, to have an explanation, for example, for their mom or my abuelita, what is mixed reality? Let's start with Pico. Pico, are you there?
Yes,
Oh,
she's muted.
I was muted, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to meet you all and excited to have this conversation. So when we talk about mixed reality, we're basically saying the combination of what is the physical reality and then the virtual reality. As you know, there's a lot of spaces that are encompassed only in the virtual reality, such as video games, and then the physical reality, everything that we know so far. But then the mixed reality becomes these interfaces, which become almost like the portals into the overlapping of such. So, I mean, from different AR glasses, as you know, like every company has their version. I mean, from Snapchat to Google to Microsoft, et cetera, are coming up with different options of how you're going to overlay this content, but also just like a AR on your phone and even through your iPad, et cetera. Essentially, it's how are we going to combine these two worlds that are like increasingly more coming together as one. And is the question only about mixed reality, or is it also about like
yes, mixed reality?
Okay, so
thank you,
I'll
Pico.
that so that someone else can add.
We'll have the just wanted to know a little bit more about yourself. If you could give us a short bio.
Yes,
for the rest of our.
Yes, my pleasure. So I am Pico, and I am the founder of Vera. My background is in architecture and mathematics, but I combine them in such a way that what we would call like data-driven design. So I've been a participant in the design of very large-scale projects like the Google headquarters, some for Cirque du Soleil, Hard Rock Casino and Hotel, different luxury brands like Louis Vuitton, Samsung as well, and some like interactive experiences that they've done. And essentially I went from what is like the physical architecture of building buildings with a very specific program to what would be the multimedia architecture, which means that it has an overlap of either digital content through projection mapping or through LEDs, using sensors to create like an interactivity or a dialogue between them both, and then moving more into video game design. So a couple years ago, I began doing creative directions out of video games, and now with the metaverse, it's been a combination of everything, I would say, where we are building virtual worlds, but at the same time, we're seeing how we tie it back into physical reality, not only in the sense of as an exhibition or just a showcasing, but more of like, how do we make sure that both the programming and the communication and whatever it is that the activity entails, it can benefit from both worlds at the same time. So right now with Vera, we're working very closely with different artists, institutions, and companies getting into the metaverse. It ranges from fine art with museums, but we're also working with some with a sports league, with different festivals, ceremonies, etc. So it's a pretty wide range of different people wanting to come into the metaverse. So it's been very exciting.
That seems like a busy job for sure. Sorry. We have Denise.
Hello, I can start with an intro. I live in Florida. I work for Microsoft. I'm going to be one of those full-time remote employees when we get started, going back to the office. I worked at Motorola as a systems engineer for, gosh, an eternity, in 15 years here in South Florida. And then they shut down and I had to start a new chapter in my career. And it was in mixed reality. Actually, I didn't know at the time what it was. It was Magic Leap was hiring, and I was with them for 5 years. And I fell in love with the world of mixed reality. And like the fact that I was one of a very small group of people who actually like understood the whole entire thing from the ground floor. And I think as a Latina, it gives me power because there's not a whole lot of Latinas in this space. And, you know, part of me wants to see a lot more of us, you know, define what the world of mixed reality looks like. So mixed reality is a spectrum. You have virtual reality, which is these digital worlds, and you put like a thing in front of your eyes. It has these cameras on it that sense the world. And then it has a display on the inside. Not that this isn't really on, but it has a display on the inside that shows you what's going on. So basically it's just a computer. Sometimes people will call it a spatial computer because it can actually do math on spaces to put holograms and stuff and make it stick in the world so you don't get dizzy and vomit. That's like the extreme. That's the digital, everything is digitized, your whole world is digitized. It's the right hand of the spectrum is the VR world. Then you have the mixed reality world, and I don't have my HoloLens here, but it's lets you see the real world and still puts holograms in front of you. And it's amazing once you get to try this, and like you don't get vertigo, you don't get nauseous, you don't get sick when you put on an MR headset. And then the other one is the augmented reality, and same thing. Your phone is a mobile computer. It has cameras. It has an IMU. It's not as powerful of a computer as one of these things or a mixed reality headset is. And in this space of mixed reality, there is all the careers, all of them, like program manager. You don't have to be a hardware engineer. You don't have to be a machine learning person. You don't have to be artificial intelligence. You could be a data scientist. You could be a program manager. You could just be a systems engineer. And yeah, I know we're going to get more into that, but kind of in this mixed reality is a spectrum of all of these ways of putting merging digital information with the physical world and overlaying that information for you to see and interpret, right? You have your computer environment, you have your human cognition, you have interacting with those holograms as well, and those environments. And yeah, that's a lot to process, but
so, Denise, I will just ask, in a single sentence, what would I tell my abuelita? What is mixed reality?
You asked that question earlier and you stumped me when you asked it. And I'm like, oh man, because even my mom doesn't understand what I do. So I'm like, here, mom. So I put it on her face and she's like, wait, there's like a little dinosaur. He's rolling all around the floor. And she's like, wait, but it's my floor. Like, where did this dinosaur come from? And it's like a merger between your computer and your environment. It's like you make a portable computer, except it doesn't have any power, because it's layered over your face. So it's like a little digital computer that runs around. Oh gosh, that's a terrible. I hope, Rosa, you can do, not to put any pressure on you, Rosa. I hope you will help us do it justice.
And next we have, as we mentioned, we have software engineer at Rec Room, Rosa Enciso. Rosa, if you can introduce yourself and provide us a little bit more background on what mixed reality is.
Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Rosa. I'll introduce myself first. So I am originally from Peru. I was at Microsoft before joining Rec Room. So my background is very different. Like I didn't really start in hardware, nothing about gaming. I actually initially did my PhD in a completely theoretical area, computer science. So I had not even any plans to join the industry. I was working on graph theory. I love graphs. I see everything as a graph. And this has actually followed me throughout my career. At Microsoft, I have worked on, the main thing I had been doing is taking data and creating new experiences in other products across Microsoft. And one of the teams or projects that I had been working on for the most of the time, it's the knowledge graph. So there's always graphs everywhere I go. So I knew about Rec Room because I know the founders since they started, and so I had always been aware of them, of the company or what they were doing, and there was always this I'm not from Florida, but I went to UCF, so I lived there for 9 years. So one thing that was very interesting to me and that I was always very curious is the social aspect, because it's very different. It's not just a game. It started out as a game. It started out like something like Wii Sports, just like playing sports in VR. But then the difference was that there were people joining in and making friends. They were becoming a community. And so to me, I mean, immediately I see a connection, and to me, that's a graph. And so I had been following the company and seeing, you know, when are they going to start focusing on that aspect? Like, that's super interesting. And like in the last year and a half, they had this huge explosion of data. And I thought, oh, okay, that is where I come in. Like, I know what to do with data. I want to work on like friends recommendations, room recommendation. I want to help build that community algorithmically, and, you know, using graph theory, etc. And at the same time have an impact. So so that's what I've been working on. Like, of course, it's a startup. It has been growing really quickly in the last year and a half, but we've done a lot. It's very interesting. And like, you know, I would say when I joined the company, most of the employees were, you know, game aficionados, like, you know, just like your regular gamer, which I don't identify myself as. But when we look at Rec Room and we're thinking about what is mixed reality, right? Once you add these different humans and these connections, like even if it's just an alias, right? You're not faking a persona there. You're not a character in Street Fighter or whatever game, right? Like, you are yourself. You are interacting, you're having conversations. And, you know, a lot of the rooms in Rec Room are not all games and quests and, you know, paintball type of games. There's lounge rooms, there's LGBTQI communities, there is Latino communities actually, and people just go and speak Spanish or French, etc. And so it is another world. It is yourself, your presence online, and not just online as in like a social network like Facebook or Twitter, but in some type of environment, in like what we call rooms. So you are there in doing an activity, or you are doing charades, you're in a bar, like a virtual bar or a concert. We had a conference there like like 2 weeks ago, right? We had Latinity there. I mean, the people there, the speakers there, they are themselves, right? Like, they show us an avatar, but it's not a different person. It's just you in a different place. So when I think about this mixed reality, I think about that aspect. Like, now I have, my reality is in two different places, right? Like, I am myself here, you know, as a human, well, 2D, but still, right? I am myself in my house, full 3D, more than that really. And in the game, I am my avatar, but I'm still, you know, that's my personality, right? Like, even how I would dress my avatar, it still has some of me. Like, you could see that in Latinity. It was very interesting. Like, everyone personalized their avatar, you know, as I would see them. Like, I knew the people that were attending, and yeah, it just matched, you know, like how you would dress, or like the different accessories you would add. And so it is really just your presence in these different virtual worlds.
So I'm going to pick on that, Rosa. Well, we had a design vision of mixed reality, we have a computational vision of mixed reality, and a mathematical vision of mixed reality. So with that in mind, how do I get started in this field? How do you get started in it? Meaning, you, Rosa, mentioned how you moved from Microsoft to Rec Room. Pico mentioned how the designing luxury brands, and then into games, and then became all of this mixed reality. So, Denise, could you give us a little bit more background on how you got started into mixed reality within your last experiences?
Yeah, I can start. I accidentally fell into it, and it was the best accident that happened. You know, I needed a job, and there was a startup nearby, and everybody talked about it and said, this is amazing. It's so amazing. I can't tell you what we do. So about 7 years ago, I'm like, okay, I'm going to interview for a job. I don't know what the hell they're doing. And I eventually got a job there, and I put one of the devices on and I said, oh my God, this is amazing. I am seeing the future. Like this is like every like science fiction movie. This is Princess Leia and R2-D2, you know, hovering, and like you see her like volumetric form in front of you, and Minority Report and the guy moving his things around, and Iron Man, and he's just like zipping three-dimensional models and manipulating them. And it was just like, this is awesome. Like, you know, I'm in, you know, like, where do I subscribe? So getting started for me, it was, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about computer vision, machine learning, artificial intelligence. I'm, you know, 44 years old. So this, you know, I was on dial-up modems in college, right? So this is not the kind of stuff I was learning in school, but, you know, you learn the basic concepts of computer science and engineering and problem solving. So you just apply it to the next thing. So getting started is just being really curious. You know, if you know, coming here is a great way to get started, seeing what other people are doing, hearing their stories. If there's a place where you can go to try on a headset, some of the libraries, at least near me, they have headsets or they have things that you can try on. So getting really curious, trying things on, trying things out, go to Rec Room, sign up for Rec Room, go through the tutorial, and just, you know, minimum viable product, sign into Rec Room, go to a tutorial, and go into a room, right? Or, you know, start playing with the metaverses that are free. As like, you know, I can do something from, I can do this from home. I can do this without having to, like, if you're, you know, worried about COVID or you're still indoors, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do from home. And then, you know, as more social things start to become available to you, go and try these things out and be really curious about it. There's Mozilla Hubs, there's Rec Room. Microsoft has their version called AltSpace. Facebook has their version called V something. I forget what it's called, but it's on the Oculus Quest 2. There is WebXR. There's tutorials. There's this tool called Babylon JavaScript, which allows you to manipulate using JavaScript three-dimensional objects. There's cracking open Unity or Unreal engines. They have freeware versions for you to play with in education, and just do their basic getting started kind of things. Horizons. Yes, Rosaline. Thank you.
Okay.
Horizons.
Wow. We have a whole list of resources already. Next will be for Pico. What opportunities do you see in mixed reality? And what opportunities for people with technical background, without technical background?
Yeah, I think as we're seeing in this space, there's a translation of every other type of job that we have, whether it's for design or computation or software engineer, all that can be translated into this space. It's just a more, I would say, three-dimensional than what we had before. So what we're seeing, like, I guess the shift is that that's why gamers and like video game designers have been kind of leading the way. Like the companies that are leading the way have a background in gaming because of its spatial components, right? So I think both from a design perspective, you can see this being useful, but like UX design, UI design, 2D design, 3D design, architectural design, it's literally like building entire worlds that can happen simultaneously with the physical, right? So the only thing that I would say that is not transferable are things that have to do with like the physics of the real world. Like maybe we don't need a mechanical engineer inside designing something, but the mechanical engineer is for the hardware, right? So it's like if you separate the hardware from the software and from the content, maybe, okay, so maybe there isn't like a structural engineer, but apart from that, I can see every type of job coming into this space, whether it's creating the components, the physical components, or it's creating the content, or it's building the communities, or it's building the communication and all the different parts that have to live inside. I don't know, Denise, like, what do you think would be like a job that would not be translatable?
I don't, all jobs, all technical careers can be translated into the next, we're at the edge of this
Yeah.
space, you know, at this edge of the new computing platform. We went from physical, we went from mainframes and distributed and just, you know, and endpoints where you accessed it. Those were like the old 1960s, 1970s computers. Then we went to personal computers. Then we went to mobile phones, but that's not really a computer. It's just more of a communications. Then we went to the web and the .com. And then we had mobile phones that actually connected to the web. And now we're back to cloud computing. So we have physical endpoints that go to the cloud. So, but now we're like at this edge of the next wave of computing. We're like right at like 1995 when people are starting to log in, and you might have had AOL.com or not. Like, you know, I see Horizons and Rec Room as like the first online platform. I don't want to call Rec Room AOL because like, wait, you know what? AOL's still around. Like I can't believe it. My mom still has her AOL email.
Okay. But based on that, I would like to know for the audience if there are specific roles that the mixed reality community is looking to fill right now, since we are in this great, as I call it, rearranging of jobs. People are saying, okay, it's time to try something new. What are those openings, Denise and Rosa, let's say in your companies?
Yeah, so at Rec Room, we have roles on every area, like engineers, software engineers. We're always going to need software engineers, back-end engineers. We are hiring like crazy, people with experience in Unity. But one of the things that I would say is a big differentiator between people, because yes, there's a lot of software engineers everywhere. It's the passion for the area. And when I say passion for the area, I don't mean like you need to be a gamer, right? I mean, like I was talking about this case of like community, right? Building community. I mean, this is something that happens in the real world, right? We have so many people that are like presidents of, you know, women's societies, Hispanic societies, different clubs in school, like they organize things. I mean, you have a feel of what it takes to build a community, right? Like the social interactions. It's not just about making friends, right? Like it's different. Like what brings a community together? What will make people come and have events? So there's that aspect. There's the other aspect, which sometimes we take for granted, I think, when we focus on engineering, which is the artistic side. So in Rec Room, I mean, if you check out some of the rooms, they are so amazing. Like there are some people that are just, I mean, the tools are not that advanced for creating things, but the creators are able to do really amazing things. And, you know, having that understanding of that creativity potential, right? And tying it back to the technical side is a big differentiator. So I would say like someone that is just purely an engineer is almost not enough anymore, because you need to understand that. And I feel like, you know, a lot of people, especially from diverse backgrounds, right? It's not something we lack. We have a lot of color in our lives. Like we have a lot of different music, different, you know, just we've been exposed to different things. And that is such a plus to bring in the community, you know, like it's so important. We cannot have a real, you know, metaverse if we don't have all these different communities represented in it, right? So now, like this is super valuable, like having all these, you know, like the whole world really represented.
Yes, plethora of
musicians, like
experiences and all. So based on that, I would ask, what are the learning resources besides Denise? You mentioned some, and we will have some later on. But what are the conferences that are starting in the area? What are the workshops that our audience should attend, including me? Is there any way to get engaged so that I learn more about mixed reality?
I think like from a conferences perspective, it sucks, but GDC, the Game Developer Conference, and SIGGRAPH, which is I forget what it is, but I know it's about graphics. Those have large mixed reality. They've had mixed reality components for many years, right? So those are kind of like the first ones. But now even the Grace Hopper Conference now has a track that is dedicated to mixed reality that they've had for the last 3 years. So most of these conferences, these tech conferences are adding it. And I guess, like you saw with Latinity and Rec Room, Latinity was in the metaverse, right? So you're going to see a lot more of it. And I think a little bit is inspired because of COVID. We couldn't get together. So we found a place where we could get together virtually. It's not quite the same thing yet, but it will be. So that's like from a conferences perspective. There's some meetup groups. If you go to meetup.com, I think there's a couple meetup groups that have either local groups that you could join or some that are virtual.
That's awesome. Rosa, anything to add for Pico?
Oh no, I would just like add CES and South by Southwest, but along the same lines, it's a lot of just technology and entertainment global conferences, and we're naming the ones in the US, but I mean, we probably get hit up to speak at ones in Riyadh, in Dubai. I mean, this is happening in Portugal. I mean, this is happening absolutely everywhere. So the more you tap into all the options, you'll see that there's something happening almost every week.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So next we're gonna talk a topic that hits right next to our heart: diversity. We would like to learn more about how is right now, how diverse is the mixed reality industry right now, and what is the vision for diversity in the industry. We can start with Rosa.
Yeah, so like I was saying, there's a lot of opportunity here for really being, it is just so much more obvious the need for diverse employees here, because it is really transferred into what we offer, right? Like, so we're a small company. We are really trying to make an effort to hire more diverse employees, and we have made some headway. I mean, we can't do like the type of movements that, let's say, Microsoft, Google would do, but we are trying, we are doing our best. And, in the last few months, we've had more diverse people, right? Like the last year even. And, having a conference like Latinity be supported by quite a few employees within the company, right? And getting that support from the leadership, it just happened. And like, it got attention from, not just from of course, like our community, but from, within Rec Room, like other Latinos that were already Rec Room players, they found, oh, actually there are these women or these people that work in tech like me. Like, we actually had an attendee that, she was very young, she was just a player, but she found out about the conference and attended. So it was interesting. We were able to reach even to like students there. And then like we have some more African-American employees, and we had last month Black History Month, right? And they had this idea like, let's have some avatar items related to celebrate this month, and they just made it happen. Like artists and people just made it happen, because it is important. It's important for employees, it's important for the community. It is, and it's not something that like we want to also monetize about necessarily. Like, we don't actually, that's not the focus. Rec Room particularly really believes in like, it's a small world. It's really small, like you can meet anyone really online even, and we try to treat people that way. So we do try to be mindful about representation in the games, and like giving resources. Like there is a Pride Parade that Rec Room also helps organize. It's been going on yearly, actually. So and that is not how can I say it? It is an effort, and people are very happy to contribute. Like, this is one of the most open places, open communities, I would say, that I've been to. And I think a lot of it has to do also with that diversity in role. So like at Microsoft, my team was mainly engineers, maybe a PM, so but mostly like devs, and it's so boring. But here, you know, there's devs, there's PMs, there's artists, there's concept designers, there's audio engineers, like just everything, anything. And there are experts in so many areas. I mean, we have an expert on sociology, on like society, you know, to like help us drive features on that. And I mean, it's amazing, and everyone's ideas are really valuable because they all have such unique backgrounds, right? Like it's not just whether they come from an underrepresented group or not, but like just it's just so wide, right? Like that's
exactly. It's the what I'm understanding is the exposure to all these different fields that, yes, the computing is the center of it because it creates a channel to that, but the business group is much bigger than that. With that, I'll take Denise. What is your perspective and Microsoft perspective in diversity?
So for me, I joined Microsoft about a year and a half ago. Yeah, I magically not folded, but they ran out of funding because of the pandemic. They couldn't close their funding round, so they fired half of the workforce. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to work at Microsoft. But I was surprised. Oh my God, the mixed reality CEO, quote unquote, Alex Kipman is Brazilian, right? Like 3 out of 4 of his SLTs are Latinos. There's not a whole lot of Latinas. That's the one thing I can say. There's lots of guys, but not like from a cultural perspective, not a lot of Latinas, which is one of the things that's really missing. Like I think, was it Mickey or Rosalind who's tried Supernatural, which is a VR workout application on the Oculus Quest 2. For the longest time, no freaking Latin music. They had everything. They had country music. They had reggae. They had freaking music from the Amazon, not Amazon, but like Africa. Like they had everything. They didn't have any Latino music. And it took a while for them to finally get the hint that, you know, Latinos also like this kind of stuff too. And I was so excited when they, I think it was during Hispanic Heritage Month last year that they launched their first like, anyways, there is not enough women in mixed reality in general, and there's not enough Latina women and I don't know why. Even like I do a lot of outreach work in my community. They don't know what mixed reality is. They're not. Maybe they're really busy. They don't. You know, they don't have time to keep up with all these changing technology trends, which is part of the problem, which is why I think, Rosa, you were saying earlier, it's like, it's not enough to be an engineer. You have to be super passionate about the space. And that's because it's hard. Like there is no tutorial that explains to you how to do your job, right? You got to be able to make it up on the fly. And that's more of a personality than actually like anything else, or more like the person having that kind of like, I'm just going to figure it out. I'm super stubborn. And we still have a lot of that at this edge. And I don't know if Pico, you can relate to that because you're doing all the things, right? How hard is it for you to do all those different things? Or is it super easy? Because I'm so impressed by all the things that you're doing.
No, I don't sleep. I might also,
that's the trick.
I might also be career confused because I like doing so many different things that then I forget which should be my main focus. But I think to your point, Denise, like I think the problem stems even beyond receiving job applications, right? Because a company can be like, when we're gonna hire, if we want to hire mixed reality or even in any type of technical background people, and you look at resumes and you get only 10% to 5% of women applications, right? So that means that the education, it comes down to like who is getting educated in these fields, and then that comes down to during school, how are the extracurricular activities that people are given being also gender biased, right? And that comes back to what are the toys that kids are using that are encouraging them to go into one direction or another. So for example, I mean, I never played with video games when I was young. I was probably with Barbies and Rubik's cubes and stuff like that. Like I'm a builder, but like it started with Barbie houses, my architecture career, I would say. But it just really comes down to like what are the things that inspire you when you're young, right? So I think that that's where when we talk about diversification, both from gender and from cultures, it just has to start at every stage of the way. You can't just expect it to be only at the hiring position, because that's a little too late. It has to be coming in from the bottom up, right?
So based on that, how would you convince any of us to join mixed reality?
I think convincing is a strong word. I think it's more inspiring, like letting you guys see what the space is like and how incredible it is to build things that are new. I think part of it is just being enticed by innovation. And another part is innovation that is visual, right? Because a lot of companies that are highly innovative, you see the results, but the result isn't necessarily a product. I think there's something really fun about mixed reality or virtual reality, is that you get to see the outcome of like the fruition and the outcome of your product in a visual way. For example, as an architect, I have designed over 100 buildings and maybe 3 have gotten built. So in the virtual space, almost everything gets built, right? So I think that's another fun part, which is like really that the time frame of your creative outputs is shorter, and you're just consistently building on a space that has no limits, that has like it's literally just as much as you can create. So yeah, I think that it's more about do you want to be a part of building the future or not?
I love that phrase. Do you want to be part of building the future? Rosa or Denise, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I want to add that if you look at every wave of computing, those people that were right on the ground floor, right? We're at the ground floor of mixed reality. In the 1990s, the PayPal people, the PayPal mafia, the .com people, all those people are the seed investors and the venture capitalists of today, right? All those people that were playing at the edge of technology. And before that, in the 1970s, it was in 1975, Apple and Microsoft, Jobs and Bill Gates were playing around with computers. 10 years later, 10 years it took them to make a first computer, personal computer, in like the 1984. You start to see these personal computers. And so like they're, Apple and Microsoft are two of the most richest companies in the world 40 years later, or almost 30 years later. So right now we're on the ground floor. So beyond inspiring them, like, this is amazing. If we have more Latinas, if we have more role models, more people that little girls can point to and say, oh, you do that? Like, I didn't know this was something for me, right? We need to have more of us that are growing this field and making it friendly. Like Rosa was talking earlier about Rec Room. You have rooms that are for Latinas, or you have rooms that are for people for Spanish speaking. You make this community where other people want to come. And if you're not making the community for people like you with your culture, like, you're excluding them in many ways. So I want, my goal here is to inspire. Like, it's a fascinating career. What's great about it is that nobody has figured it out. Okay. There's no secret sauce. There's no playbook. There's no like masters of people building websites, because it doesn't exist. So like from a catching up to the technology, there's no catching up. Like, you're just learning with everybody else. So you're just as lost as everybody. And me personally, like that whole imposter syndrome, I was talking to my boss today. It's like, yeah, I'm still not sure why you guys hired me. I still feel like I don't belong here, but like, you think I'm doing a great job, so I must be doing something right. So that imposter syndrome is so, especially for me, is so real, that being in a place where everybody is as lost as I am is great. I would not want to be building websites today. Like, there are like amazing, like Wix, you can build a website in 30 seconds in Wix, right? I can't compete with that, right? So I can compete where everybody else is lost, because I can be a little scrappier and just like be gritty about it.
Rosa, some final words?
Yeah. So one thing I would say about, particularly on on the software side, or like games like Rec Room, Roblox, etc. So getting into that tech is as easy as downloading the app and joining and just inviting your friend, meeting them there, trying out something simple. Lusa was mentioning, I saw a comment or like, I wonder if this is going to help when we're working remotely. My team is fully remote and I haven't met many of them actually. And we've played Rec Room, like those are our morale events. Like we just hang out in Rec Room, and actually, I mean, you think that we're on Rec Room all the time, but actually we're server devs, we're backend devs, so we're not really in Rec Room all the time. So it is something that, we take time off to like hang out at Rec Room. I've heard people do like at the beginning of the pandemic, they had baby showers in Rec Room. So if you have a birthday party, instead of making it on Zoom, try it out in Rec Room or Roblox or something else, because you can have a different experience, right? Like instead of having yet another Zoom call, you can be on your phone while you're outside, just hanging out and interacting, throwing a ball literally, and that already gets you expertise. So when you go and you finish your degree in any area, really, like we said, there's just so many areas that are useful in here. Have that background. You have to
definitely. With that in mind, I'm going to open the chat for a couple of questions. We have time for a couple of questions. Anyone can unmute themselves or ask the question or write it in the chat.
Hello, everyone. I have a question. This is Diana Morante. I would like to know what applicability you see for virtual reality in a new reality of e-commerce and retail sales that is growing a lot right now. Thank you.
Did you say e-commerce? What was the other one?
Retail.
Retail?
Retail. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. Like the amount of money brands are spending on making virtual stores, like the whole brick and mortar, Amazon has killed, at least in the United States. So I'm talking about the United States. Amazon has killed everybody. Like the malls are devastated. Like most of the malls down here, like you can't go shopping for clothes. Like, and if they had clothes, like you can't even, they usually don't have your size. So from that perspective of how brands go and get that brick and mortar feel, there's an app called Obsess AR, which is they're doing fashion. Balenciaga and a bunch of the other brands are doing, and Louis Vuitton, all these brands are doing a bunch of, it's the high-end brands, right? They have the money to spend, but they're trying to figure out how they can create that high-end feel and those brick and mortar experiences in these virtual environments. Because then people are from their home, they can shop from their home, they can see all of their, like, it's cheap. Pico was saying, like, she's architected 100 buildings and only built 3, right? So like all these brands can architect 100 of different showrooms, like do some A/B testing with data science and see like, hey, like people love this one. We're actually going to go build this for reals. Because like everybody like spends like 2 hours like poking around in this room. So like you can even make retail experiences and see how the virtual environment interacts with them and if they love it. And then you can make those things real without having to like go spend $2 million making a thing real. And everyone's like, this is hideous.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Diana, for your question. Anyone else? Temis, you can unmute.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this talk. I just have a question. I would like to know, in your experience, what are the challenges that you see in terms of accessibility?
Wonderful question. So for our panelists, what are the challenges that you see in accessibility?
There's, from like virtual reality and augmented reality, they're visual. So anybody with a limited visual is actually doesn't have a lot of accessibility. However, there was I forget which one, it wasn't CES, but one of the conferences did a little a mini conference where now somebody who would never have access to that conference because they're on a wheelchair, they have limited mobility. Not only can they be eye to eye with everybody in the room instead of sitting at a lower level on a wheelchair, but in these virtual worlds, they actually are on the same ground as everybody else. It's one of the reasons I'm terrified of when everybody goes back to the office, because I'm going to be one of those remote workers, right? Right now, everyone's on the same equal footing. We're all stuck in these two-dimensional screens and having to do the same level of work. So it's actually your work speaks for itself versus when you're face-to-face, and now like whoever has the better social skills or better presentation is the one who, you know, might get promoted versus you. Or at least it feels like I'm on more equal footing. So although there are limitations in the hardware itself, it actually opens up accessibility in so many other areas because now everybody's in the same footing. Except I think who was it? Sarah and Rosalind mentioned about, you know, the price of entry, right? But places like Rec Room, you can do Rec Room on your phone and it's free, right? And so you have most people in the world, even third world countries, will have a phone before they have amenities in their household. So it's actually making virtual worlds more accessible in that domain versus, you know, our physical world. We're limited by distances and airplanes, and, you know, yeah, you can't fly to Dubai. I can't fly to Dubai. It's too expensive. But I could go to a virtual fair in Dubai and like connect with other people from around the world, which I wouldn't be able to in, you know, the world 5 years ago. So
Sure.
it's got a bunch of trade-offs and they're exciting.
I just wanted, I'm a little curious. I'm going back to the previous question on the retail and e-commerce. And I wanted to ask Pico, because Pico mentioned that she worked for many retail brands. What has been the experience and the application for mixed reality in those fields?
Yeah, I think there's how to break it down. So one thing is that brands are becoming more experiential, and this is something that maybe more than 10 years ago has been like a big step in that direction. And it could have been because of online retail, in the sense that, like Denise mentioned, the moment that everything can get bought online, then what is the purpose of having something physical? And that's where, in general, experiences in the physical space, I mean, when you compare even like a museum of ice cream or Meow Wolf or something like that, like the reason people will go to a physical experience has more to do with what they get out of it in terms of like their sensory approach and the entertainment, rather than the product itself. So when you think about retail and the evolution of retail, it's thinking of it as not only as the product or the end product, but it's the end product, it's the experience, and it's the culture that it creates. So a lot of people are also like very interested in what is that the brand represent, and how can that be portrayed inside of these experiences. So when we do designs for brands inside, whether it's the metaverse or it's AR applications, etc., we're thinking, how are we going to display the product in a way that it isn't about replicating what already exists? It's not about literally replicating a store inside of the virtual space, but really extending what it feels to be inside of that world. What would be the world of that brand? So, yeah.
Thank you so much
about interaction.
For that background. I just wanted, because of our time constraints, I just want to give everyone 3 seconds to have a screenshot of these resources. We have some emerging tools that including engines, animation, programming languages that you can copy and try to do some additional research. We also have a QR code for an augmented reality sample and code. And all I have to say is thank you for joining us. Thank you to the panelists for your valuable time, for for sharing your ideas and all the feedback in this industry. Here's the QR code for additional information on Latinas in Computers, so you can join us on more events like this. Thank you, everyone. We are at the top of the hour.
Sorry, one more thing I wanted to say. Guys, feel free to contact our panelists in LinkedIn, and if you're interested in knowing more, take advantage of making these network connections that may come useful in the future.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank
We'll
you.
share the recording.